Picture. Tom Lydon is with us, President ETF Trends. So today is the big day, Tom, as we take a look at BITO. This is the ETF launch. It gives everybody a chance to somehow invest in cryptocurrency. This is Bitcoin futures. It's actually not Bitcoin itself, but opens the door. When I checked, it was up about 3% higher from its net asset value. Tell me more about what you think.
Well, it's been a long time coming, 8 years since the first filing by the Winklevoss twins, but it's here today. And for a use case, Nicole, it's really important. Look at the financial advisor community alone. Most financial advisors have an increased interest among their clients to get into cryptocurrency, but they weren't confident because people had to go to Coinbase or other platforms without being able to buy that on their own platform. Now, today, with an approved ETF, we have the ability to give a small allocation or appropriate allocation to clients. As you know, a lot of younger investors, whether it be through Robinhood or have a little bit more time on their hands to be able to turn the risk on button up, and institutions that have seen this as a great opportunity, they've got both ends of that barrel covered. But internally, for investors that are trying to save for retirement, especially concerned about inflation, looking at alternative strategies, now there's another arrow in the quiver for advisors and their clients.
It's amazing. What does it mean going forward? As now it's just the beginning. Are we going to likely see other products like this one that represent Bitcoin futures or crypto in some way?
Yeah, within days, we're going to see Valkyrie, VanEck, and probably Galaxy in the coming weeks get approval. They have similar future strategies. The big question is, do we have the physically backed, and I've got that in air quotes, version like GLD, the gold ETF? Is that going to come to market? Signals are that Gary Gensler is not too excited about a physically backed version because the CFTC that oversees the futures area gives him confidence, and also it's in a 1940 Act structure. Without nerding out here, those are areas that he's comfortable with. When we start going to physically backed or physical Bitcoin within an ETF, it's a little bit of a stretch at this point. Fingers crossed that we'll see it sometime in 22. But for now, it's a great alternative. There's high correlation. There is some concern with the amount of space in the futures market, but we're watching it closely. And as far as launches, this Bitcoin ETF today is going to be in the top 10 of all ETF launches.
Right. I mean, I'm not surprised. Everybody was certainly waiting for it long enough. As you noted, the Winklevoss brothers there, the twins, from a long time ago have been talking about this. I mean, it's certainly been all the talk on Wall Street for many, many years. And in this case, this is protecting investors to a certain extent, at least with the CFTC, as you said, protecting investors with the Bitcoin futures and not actually having Bitcoin itself. What about some of the other investments then that are similar but different, right? When you talk about, you mentioned Coinbase, but there's other things that are sort of crypto related, right? And Ethereum and Dogecoin and all these other things. Some have been moving in the opposite direction as this has gained momentum.
Yeah, well, there are other coins for sure. I think we would see an Ethereum futures-based product at one point in time. But the other thing is there are other ways to participate. There are a lot of crypto miners that are publicly traded. And there are many thematic strategies out there today in ETF form where you can actually get those within that portfolio. So that's something to consider. And also a lot of companies, publicly traded companies, that are in the blockchain area as well. So in addition to miners, those that set up the blockchain plumbing and companies that have embraced the blockchain, where in the future they're going to take full advantage of that, like credit card companies, transactions that are going to be so much more seamless in the future. So there are a lot of thematic strategies there too. But when it's specific to the coin itself, I think right now Bitcoin is the king. And now that we have a product and we've got more that will be rolling out, there's a lot of encouragement for Wall Street because, to a degree, it's not been endorsed by the SEC, but it's been validated, and we're watching very closely. So far, no concerns over trading, great volume, great correlation with the underlying price. So fingers crossed, we're going to continue to see that heading in the right direction.
How much of this do you attribute to Gary Gensler himself? I was reading an interesting article how he used to write. He was a Goldman Sachs guy. He was a professor at MIT. When he was at MIT, he was working with the former head of the SEC, and then now came on board and brought this to light. And here it is, right? They didn't get in the way. They tried to make it happen in a way they thought they could protect investors. Do you think he was crucial here?
He was critical. He was chairman of the CFTC. He understood it. He, as a professor, was teaching about the blockchain and cryptocurrency and what that meant for the future. But then, now having his SEC hat on, he has a lot of responsibility to the average investor in the U.S. He's taken baby steps, but also the SEC as a whole has done a really good job of communicating with the ETF issuers out there as they continue to change their applications over time. They ask tough questions, they ask for research, and it was a collaborative effort to get the SEC to the point where they got comfortable enough for approval. So this was not something, as you know, that happened overnight. They've been working on it for years. The fact that he came forward with, look, a physically backed version is not something we're comfortable with. We would be comfortable with a futures version and a 1940 Act wrapper. All of a sudden, all these applications changed, and they were back in line hoping that this would work, and it has.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important to talk about the backstory, right? This just didn't magically appear for everybody. It was a long time in the making with some people who really, truly understood what it took to bring it to market in a safe way. Thank you so much, Tom. This was a great conversation. Tom Lydon, ETF Trends, looking at BITO, right? The new launch of this Bitcoin ETF.